starting off with the morning coffee and asking myself, behind closed doors, what conversations are actually going on that you and I will never be privy to unless, well, it's on a 30 for 30 one day, which at this rate is very possible. And it could be good or it could be bad. And our grandchildren will be sitting there watching this on the glory days of Clemson coming to an end going, hey, grandpappy, or does anyone really call anyone grandpappy? Maybe you do. Grandpa, do you remember that? And we will look with such regret in our eyes and say, yeah, I do. Well, what did you do? Well, found out that if you scream at a TV, it doesn't respond to you. But I just want to talk about what conversations could be going on right now because, folks, let me tell you this. They have no game to plan for this week. So if you, it has to be really tense around Clemson right now. Stepping back, looking towards North Carolina, and probably some of those coaches were begging God, please let this the game week for North Carolina get here to where, well, attention will be on someone other than me or us. It's very interesting. We're going to dive into that in just a second. Hey, welcome to the channel. I appreciate you being here. It's a beautiful, beautiful Thursday morning. Also, if this is a live stream, so in the future, obviously the date has changed. 3 months from today is Christmas. Merry Christmas, you filthy animals. If you know, you know. Yeah. If you're watching my channel, Christmas is not going to sneak up on you. I'm going to let you know the 25th pretty much of every month. Merry Christmas so many months in advance. So, yeah, go ahead and start your Christmas shopping. Hopefully you can get some good deals and blah, blah, blah. If you love talking Clemson football, I almost said Christmas football, but Clemson football, I hope you'll subscribe. It is free. The channel's growing. And listen, I appreciate everyone who has shared the videos, who has subscribed, who has joined the channel, $3 or $5 per month. I really appreciate that. And all the super thanks. And the personal emails people send out to me just telling me, hey, man, I really appreciate this. I love Clemson football. I don't get to respond to all of them. But anyway, it means a lot to me. Also, another college football podcast is my other college football channel. It started just a couple of months ago. It's brand new. I previewed Florida State and Virginia a couple of days ago, Georgia, Alabama, LSU, and Ole Miss. Go check that out. The link is below this video as well. So let's dive into conversations going on behind closed doors. Again, most of us are not privy to this information. You may have a few insiders who are close to the program, maybe someone who works in the athletic facility and they hear certain things. They see certain, well, postures that coaches have toward one another. Maybe one coach feels a little more uncomfortable than another. And because, folks, this is what I like to do here. When we're talking about Clemson football, we're talking about a pastime. We are talking about a game. But Clemson football is the job for their coaches. That's their job, right? And so you and I, when we work our jobs, you work your job, I work mine. When we view Clemson football, we see it as the game. We see it as a team sport. We can forget really, really quick that it's just like any job, that if someone is not performing well and it's costing everyone around them, or if there's a group of people who are not performing well and it's costing the production of the company, the business, the organization, whatever, things are going to get really interesting really fast. And so I know from my experience, you know from your experience, conversations are had that you hear about. Maybe someone who works in a certain department says, hey, I have something to tell you. So-and-so ended up in the office of, one of the vice presidents or one of the SVPs or maybe even the CEO of the company. And I could hear them raising their voices. And when so-and-so left the room, You could tell they were upset. You could tell that they were bothered. And also, this made so-and-so happy. How many times have you heard that? No matter what job you work at, how many times have you heard something like that? The boss called someone into the office, and now you're watching you're watching everything go down. That's what I'm talking about. So what could those conversations be? Just speculating. Well, it really doesn't take a football genius. You don't have to be Nick Saban to call this out. First off, I'm looking at every coach as a whole. I'll give Matt Luke some grace. For some reason, his offensive line is not doing well this year. But folks, I am telling you, Matt Luke would be the very last person I would want to be let go, because here's the bad thing for us Clemson fans we need to accept. Matt Luke has pretty much always done very, very well. And out of every person on that coaching staff that my mind can recollect, he is the only one with the most recent national championship there at Georgia. And they love him there. They'd love to have him back. They'll tell you that. Georgia fans will come on here and go, we'll love to have Matt Luke. So if he comes to Clemson, and it doesn't look as good, but then let's say he leaves Clemson and he goes somewhere else and he has a standout offensive line, what does that tell you? And I believe he would. So I think everyone needs to, you can ask your questions about Matt Luke. Don't blame you. Maybe a question we should ask is, has the offensive scheme been so blah that defenses feel quite comfortable sending pressure or trying to overwhelm Clemson's offensive line? At the same time, there was times that there was very little pressure. It was a front four, and they were winning. But Matt Luke, I don't think, is the problem. Tom Allen, I'm very unhappy with what I'm seeing so far. But Tom Allen just got there, and he has a history of success. He was just in the college football playoff. Well, he had dogs there. Yeah, he had dogs there, and those dogs looked good. He called a strategy that didn't put those dogs in the doghouse. So I think we need to pump the brakes there. You can be unhappy. I'm unhappy right now. But I think that we need to be very, very careful about this because as a whole, Clemson's coaching staff should probably be revamped, except for those two guys. Pretty much you could go that far to say that. And so who's getting called into the office? Who's being told you got to cut this out? I'm just asking. Who's had to have the hard conversation with Dabo Swinney? Then on top of that, is he having the difficult conversation with the right people? This past Saturday, we saw Dabo Swinney seemingly emotional. I don't know. Maybe it was his allergies. I'm not being a jerk there. Some people are saying it looked like he was emotional. And I don't want to say, it looked like he was maybe starting to tear up a little bit. But behind closed doors, is he having to have conversations with people going, hey, I worked so hard to protect the culture of this team. And now the culture of this team is losing games, not only losing games that used to we never lost. Anytime we played a really good football team, we won. But now we're losing to football teams that we're a 17.5-point favorite in our own stadium. That was this past Saturday, by the way. And you have to ask yourself, is that the case? Let me rephrase that. You don't have to do anything. But if you're trying to just figure out what in the crap is going on, you probably are doing that now. But maybe he's having conversations behind closed doors going, I never, ever, ever thought it would come to this. I have players who seem like they could care less. I have coaches who just can't coach them up. And that's the truth. I brought all these guys back who used to play for Clemson, and I have them on the sideline. And I was trying to keep that winning culture, that brought us the 6 consecutive playoffs, that brought us the national championships. I brought those guys back for that reason. And I have all these guys in khaki pants. That's what the coaches wear, by the way. Tons of them, everywhere. And it's not looking good. Maybe that's the reason he was tearing up, or apparently appeared to be tearing up. For me, I would be upset going, I worked so hard to try to do things the right way. I worked so hard to ensure that players were well educated. I know my players are young guys. They're not boys, they're not kids, they're not dumb, by the way. They can make dumb decisions, but it's not like they're toddlers. That's the biggest toddlers in the world if I've ever seen it. But I have tried my very best to ensure that these guys are not just out raising hell all the time, getting in trouble all the time. Some of them do. We hear about it from time to time. I'm still shocked that so many people don't know that smoking weed and hopping in a car and it looks like a scene out of Cheech and Chong. For some of you, you're too young for that, but look up Cheech and Chong. On second thought, don't look up Cheech and Chong. Pot boiling out. You open up the cops pull them over. They roll their windows down and it smells like a skunk set itself on fire. And they're shocked that they'll ever get in trouble for that. Just like running, 50 miles per hour over the speed limit. They're shocked. I didn't realize this came with repercussions. I'm glad that he has done his very best to do that. But he's standing on the sidelines, and if the man has half the sense that I truly believe that he does, he's standing there going, but I'm still supposed to be winning. We lost to LSU, and I'm not happy about that, but they're LSU, and LSU, they do have a lot of talent. They always have a bunch of talent, but they came to our house and beat us, and I thought that was the thing. And Georgia Tech, they just upset us. They got our best. We actually had a pretty good offensive performance 3 out of 4 quarters, and they hit a field goal as time was expiring. It was an NFL-type kick. Okay, I can accept this. But this, I was down by 20 points in my own house against Syracuse. Yeah, he's probably teared up over that. Excuse me. And folks, I'm going to tell you, if it comes out tomorrow that he was teared out, he was actually teared up. I didn't see the press conference. Maybe without a doubt that yes, that was the case. Maybe it's a sinus infection. I don't know, but I would love to know that he got so emotional over that. I'm serious. I'm not being funny. I would love to know that he got so upset he began to tear up, thinking about everything, looking at the Oculus, the backside of the Oculus, looking around the stand, seeing all the banners that he brought in. And most of that coaching staff, I've said it once, and here it goes again. Most of that coaching staff that's at Clemson has nothing to do with all that success that we talk about. Nothing. Nothing. And every game you watch, it's proven time and time again that they had nothing to do with it. The vast majority of them. And that's hard. That's hard to accept. But he's had to have had some very difficult conversations up until this point. And if he hasn't, we're in a whole... You want to talk about a world of hurt even more than what you first thought. Just absolutely awful. Now, I know I'm getting worked up here. Just want to tell y'all again, I realize college football is nothing but a pastime. I'm getting worked up because I'm having fun. All right. I'm actually having fun talking about this because it's a pastime, right? College football is a pastime. But for funsies, as someone used to say that I worked with, you tell me in any organization you've ever worked in, any organization you've ever worked in, if things were going this south, would things be okay? No. People's heads would be rolling. People would be handling it wrong. They'd be calling it. And hey, listen, I'm not advocating for this. Leaders shouldn't be calling in people, even if they are responsible, and just cussing them out and telling them off. Well, Brian, you know how the world works. Yep, the world's dying and going to hell. I don't want to hear how the world works. I've got enough of how the world works. I don't want any more of how the world works. If more people did things the upright way, and we would have less problems than what we have today. Instead of the finger pointing, we look at ourselves and we ask ourselves, hey, I wonder if I stopped being a crappy person and treating people like trash, would it change the world? No, but it would change my interactions with people and the people who had to deal with me. What needs to be done in Clemson, South Carolina is not people cussed out. They should have been having conversations up until this point going, hey, you know what? We've noticed that the offense is not looking like it should. Oh, we noticed that the wide receivers who, for the majority of the time are dropping passes that they should be catching. We've even had some drop passes this year. It doesn't make sense. But, hey, we're just talking about most of the last 5 or 6 years that's happened. And we could talk about the offensive line play. Well, that so-and-so was fired. So, yeah, that may have affected your wide receivers not being able to complete the route. But our defensive line is getting softer and softer. Just go ahead and say it. Our defensive line is getting softer and softer, except for Will Helt and Jaheim Lawson. And you notice the interesting thing about Will Helt and Jaheim Lawson? Jaheim Lawson is dying to get on the field. Which, by the way, I talked to someone, I don't know if he'll ever hear this, but I talked to someone this week that told me Jaheim Lawson is one of the nicest guys you'll ever come in contact with. And that puts a smile on my face. Said that Jaheim Lawson is one of the nicest people that you'll deal with. Very nice. Will Helt is new. So you have one who is driven by want and desire and by competitiveness. He's seen his big brother make it to the big league. He knows what type of lifestyle that will yield. I mean, sure, sign me up, son. But Will Helt is new. You look at Jeremiah Alexander, he's new. Adam Randall, his career should probably be over. He rushed for 130 yards last week. Now, rushing for 130 yards is nothing to sneeze at, but it's not like a 200-yard game. But talking about averaging significant yards per carry, I said the other day that if he rushed for 130 per game, obviously they didn't run him against LSU, and LSU knew that. He would have had over 1,500 yards rushing this season. I think he'd have been 1,560. So, and I know we can play that if game, but I'm just saying, when they give him the ball, he's actually not doing so bad, folks. But the conversations behind closed doors is got to be like, why are we not getting Gideon Davidson more involved? Yes, Randall's doing well. But why is it that we send in Gideon Davidson or David Easy, and as soon as they miss a block, and by the way, that's like the only play they're out there, We pull them. Well, you got to have discipline, folks. If right now the players who missed their assignments at Clemson receive discipline by being benched, you barely have anyone out there but about 4 or 5 players total. So before we become Sergeant Chews on 16 penny nails and we're doing our best Bear Bryant impression, you may want to put that excuse on the bench. Most of our coaches right now should be on the coaching bench. They should not be coaching at this point. They are proving over and over that this job is too big for them and they should be coaching somewhere else where they can grow. And they're not. And I hate it for them. I've said this 100%. I hate to call for anyone to be fired because I know what it feels like. At the same time, a lot of these guys have been given ample opportunity to prove themselves, all while racking up a big paycheck. And so I've said this before, the more money that comes in, the more expectation that you have. And on top of that, you have the history of Clemson. There has to be crazy. I'm hoping there's some really tough conversations going on behind closed doors right now. Right now. Now, the only thing that I would disagree with is if throughout this fall that we've seen Clemson have over the past 4 or 5 years, for any coach that's been there for the majority of that time, if they're just now having a conversation, that's not okay either. You should have been having conversations all the way up to this point to where it's not like, oh, I had a talk with you 6 weeks ago and now I'm firing you. That doesn't work. Unless you're groping the secretary, that doesn't work. That would not be good leadership. That wouldn't. So there has to be conversations going on behind closed doors. And Clemson fans, I'm going to tell you this. If it took this just to now start having the conversations, we are in a world of hurt. Because I've said this a lot. Clemson can't win the big game. And that's been happening for a while now. That has been happening for a minute, as the kids say. So I hope that Clemson has been having, mainly Dabo Swinney has been having some very difficult conversations. I hope he has. That would give me a little faith in the possibility that Clemson may very well return, not this season, but in the seasons to come. And I've talked for a while now. If you watch my channel, you know I'll ramble from time to time, okay, a lot. And I'm trying not to do that as much. But there's a lot of you who are hitting me up going, hey, listen, I wish you'd get to the point more. And then I got to have other people going, hey, just be you. This morning, I'm just being me, right? So there's 111 of you here on a Thursday morning. It's not game week. That just tells me how much the channel is growing, how much people enjoy watching the channel. So thank you. I appreciate it. I ask you one thing, and I'm going to keep going. I ask you one thing. Please pass this along to other Clemson fans. Why? Well, they're Clemson fans. This is a Clemson football channel, and you watch all the time. Pass it along in your forums, Facebook, whatever. Pass it along. Let your buddies, friends, neighbors, and clergymen know that, yeah, I'm running my mouth about Clemson football, and I love them too. So let's highlight some questions that could be asked during conversations, right? During conversations behind closed doors. Pure speculation, folks. Pure speculation. And I want to say this. For some reason, I just feel like I need to say this. There's probably some of you, it's like, you have no clue how a football team is ran or run. However you want to say that. I'll guarantee you there's definitely been conversations behind closed doors. Yeah, well, have you seen the result on the field? Sure doesn't look like it. Or it's like a if we have any parents in here, you sat down, you talked to your kid, looked at him, said, "Look, I love you. You look like me, or you look like your other parent. We created you. We're proud of you. We're pulling for you. But let me tell you right now, you keep on this path, you're going to lose your privileges. If you're driving, we're going to restrict when and where you're driving. If you're receiving an allowance for doing chores around the house and helping around the house and teaching you responsibility, you will lose that, and you will still be expected to keep those chores up to date. If you have a girlfriend, you'll talk to her only when she's sitting in front of us. Society went years without having a cell phone. Your cell phone will go bye-bye, or we'll give you a BlackBerry. Some of y'all forgot a BlackBerry. You remember how a BlackBerry was a thing? For some of you, you're too young for that. But a BlackBerry was like the thing. And it reminds me a lot of Clemson football. They did not pivot when they needed to pivot, and then the iPhone took over. If my memory serves me correct, Microsoft did the same thing. They looked at the iPhone and went, guys, don't worry about this. Now, for some of you, you're going to be like, Brian, are you admitting he should have used the portal more? I'm not anti-portal. I am anti-treating the symptom versus treating the cause of the sickness. The first cause of the sickness at Clemson is inexperienced coaching and a game plan that looks like it's from like 3, 4, 5 years ago, and the game has changed. If you want to go to the portal and pick up some players, I believe Will Helt, Tristan Smith, and Jeremiah Alexander, they are incredible additions to this football team. 2 of them are barely being used. So, I mean, you can go raid the portal all you want, but if they're not going out on the field, or you're sending Tristan Smith out there at 6'5", 215 pounds to run a play that would be ran to, I don't know, a 5'10" wide receiver, a slot guy, it doesn't make sense. So who's going to coach them is my question. Let's start with the coach and then go, and we can talk about personnel on the field. That's my thought. You can portal it up, but start with players, or start with coaches first. My opinion, only my opinion, but last I checked, there's a ton of teams that uses the portal, and they still find out that you need a coach or a set of coaches, to coach them. Let's not build the roof on the house before we get the foundation in. Get the foundation in, and we can talk about the colors of the walls in the master bath. What should be the things? This is my close. If anybody who's watching me, this is my closer right here. What should be talked about behind closed doors? All my opinion. Feel free to add in the comments section and let me know. Before I make this point, throw this out there. If you haven't subscribed, please do. It is free. Literally, it's free. Okay. Also, pass this along to all your Clemson fans in the forums, on Facebook, everything. I'm pretty sure someone did that with my new channel on another college football podcast, which go check that out. I've previewed a lot of games. Someone took my Florida State video, and my channel only has like 300 subscribers there because it's brand new. And I have almost 3,000 views on that video because I think someone shared it in a forum. That's how powerful it is. It's my most viewed video on that new channel by far. So if you like what I'm doing, want to help out, do that and pass it along. I appreciate it. Here's my point. In my opinion, what should be talked about behind closed doors, and as I said just a second ago, put it in the chats, in the chat, live chat, or in the comment section. I think first off, the first conversation that needs to be had is Dabo Swinney with himself. The majority of this success that he talks about is very real, and we all loved it. It was unbelievable. But have you ever met that guy? He's like Uncle Rico in Napoleon Dynamite. Now, Uncle Rico never, if you're paying attention, the guy seemingly was, it was all in his head how great he was, right? I mean, yeah, it was. It was all in his head. And he's always living in the past. He's always talking about what has been done. Mike Gundy was fired from Oklahoma State this week. That's Mr. Oklahoma State. But they fired him after he lost to Tulsa. And so, folks, I am just saying this with extreme, just being very careful not to just be a disrespectful jerk here. The truth is that Coach Sweeney needs to have a conversation with himself and go, you know what? I probably don't need to walk up to that microphone and talk about the success. And I probably don't need to walk up to that microphone after losing a bunch of games and saying, hey, if you're tired of winning, I'll leave. Folks, I'm going to say this with respect to him. If anyone else made that comment, you would say, that was really arrogant. And it's interesting that right after that game that he went up to the podium and he said what he said. It's very interesting to me that he lost a game that he was a 17.5-point favorite in at home. He was down by 20 at one time. So the first conversation is, I still have a job and was extended that large contract because they wanted to honor me and what I did, and they wanted to retain me here so I wouldn't leave and take that winning somewhere else. I don't want that. That's the reason they gave him the massive buyout, is so a school just couldn't so easily come in and swoop in and take him. And I think that Coach Sweeney needs to have a conversation with himself and say, just don't do that anymore because you're making yourself look bad. Next up, conversation with himself and with his staff is, why are our guys not excited to play? Other guys are being paid a lot of money in NIL and they're producing. There's a lot of guys out there who's making incredible money. And they're still producing. I mean, I have criticized a lot of these guys, and I still stand by it, who they seemingly don't appreciate the money. They don't appreciate so much. And then there are other guys out there who do. They do appreciate it. I would have to ask myself, why are all of our guys flat? Why are very few of them excited to be out there? And then next, here's the next question. The guys who are excited, why are we not putting them on the field more? Next, I'm going to have, this would be more questions for Sweeney himself, and then going to the coaches themselves going, who on my coaching staff? Who on my coaching staff shouldn't be there? Take their name out of it. Look at their results. Who shouldn't be there? And draw the timeline from when they started their job up until this point. How did they do? Because if you do that, you're going to see a correlation within the past 5 years. You'll see it. I mean, it will be eyebrow raising that most of those guys got their job within the past 5 years. And you'll see it. You'll see the airplane flying into the ground. You'll see it. It will be so flippin' clear. You'll be like, oh my goodness, how did I not recognize this before? I know. I get it. And then after that, having that honest conversation with himself stepping back and asking, who are the best at these positions in this country or in the country, college football? By the way, Garrett Riley, I'm not taking shots at the guy. His contract, I believe, is up this year. So there's a really good chance he won't be fired. They just won't renew his contract. But I'm going to say this, and I said this to someone on the phone the other day. If Garrett Riley is being told what type of offense to run at Clemson, we owe Garrett and Brandon Streeter a big apology. A massive one. We're sorry. So that's why I'm very careful, because something still doesn't feel right. And every time I look at my gut and go, you know what, I'm not going to go with you, I pay, I pay for it, and I pay for it big time. See, I got choked up. I had to pay for it so bad. Does that make sense? You pay. You pay, and you pay for it bad. It's not good. It doesn't work out. Your gut is a natural God-given defense that most of the time lets you know something is not right, and it's based on a lot of experiences that you've had. That doesn't mean that every experience defines every little thing that every little way that you approach in life, because I know some people who have high anxiety and they're scared of everything. So you have to take that, you have to use that approach with a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of nuance. Okay. With that said, my gut tells me something is weird with this offense. Doesn't make sense. And if you go in and you brought in Chip Kelly next year to run Clemson's offense, if he's being swayed on what type of offense we want to run at Clemson, well, you might as well not hire him. You know it. I know it. All God's children knows it. Who would be the position coaches, the coordinators that I need to get back to a championship level of playing football in this era, not 2016 and 2018, in this era? Football has changed, and football has changed a lot, right down to the schemes. And one of the easiest ways for you to come to this conclusion is that at the end of almost every loss that Clemson has had in the past 5 years, we hear something along these lines. Well, Clemson got outcoached. Really? Not for the umpteenth time. And maybe you're happy with your coaching staff because you love them. But at the end of the day, what are their results? I've jokingly said this recently, and I'll say it just for anyone who didn't hear it. My Granny Wilson, my great-grandmother, I was blessed to have 3 of my great-grandparents living especially through my teenage years, into my early 20s. And then my last great-grandmother just passed away within the past 7 years. So, I was in my 30s when I lost my last great-grandparent. But my Granny Wilson used to live with our family. She was a widow, wonderful woman, miss her every day. And I would do anything for that woman. And she was so good to me. And with that said, I wouldn't want her running my offense. I wouldn't want her working on my car. I wouldn't want her doing brain surgery on me. You know why? Because that's not her gifting. She was so good at so many other things. But setting her up for failure, setting her up for failure is not good for my relationship with her. So my point in all of that is, you may love some of these coaches. You may have a great relationship with them. Your wives, your friend and your wife, y'all may all be friends. And this would be tough, but you literally have a football program to run, and you can't operate that way. Maybe you can have a few charity cases on your coaching staff in positions that are not that big of a deal, but you better have some bosses at the majority of those positions, because folks, you're going to get the result that you're getting today. And those better be I hope those are the conversations that are being had, because, hey, here's the flip side. If those conversations are not being had internally, you think it's bad now, it's going to continue to get worse. Folks, pass this around to your buddies, your friends, your neighbors. Get into the comment section real quick and say hello to not everyone. David Woody, Willman, John Answers, got Alex Patterson in here, Jamie Stone in here, Dwayne Wicker, Chase Turner, Phenomenize, Joshua Leinert. We got Nick Ballman in here, got Bowman, sorry. We got Matthew Coker, Dogs rolling loud. Sup, B? Good to see you. Keith, good to see you, my man. See Joey Beck in here, Dan May, Bronco in Virginia, Hamp Redmond, Benny Weathers, Tristan. There are so many in here. It's absolutely hilarious. Y'all take care of yourself.